Hi everybody, I'm Fran Spielman, and with me is a fellow Cub fan. Full disclosure, both of us are Cub fans. Alderman Tom Tunney. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Fran. And just remember, I'm a Southside Cub fan, which is even
That's
more
really
special.
That's really extraordinary. And yet, neither one of us are going to be invited to the Cub convention. You're certainly not. You have a target on your back by the Ricketts family. And what is it all about, really, do you think?
Well, as I've said repeatedly, you know, we have been negotiating with the Cubs and formerly the Tribune Company about what's the best direction for Wrigley Field. First of all, we started with the landmarking of it, which the Cubs really were not supportive of. They didn't overtly object, but we had night game restrictions that preceded me. They had a rooftop agreement that they negotiated with the neighbors, which again, something I inherited. So I walked into a bunch of interesting deals, and then when the Tribune Company sold the franchise,
2008?
2008 to the Ricketts family, I think they wanted to get out of all those restrictions, and they also wanted a public financing component. So I believe, in lieu of both the mayor and I's support for no public financing for this wealthy enterprise, and we've seen across the country where there's no return on investments on public dollars going to stadiums. That being said, I think the mayor and I made the right choice. With that, it also put an increasingly chip on their shoulder that, well, then give us everything else and get government out of the way. Well, that's not the way things work in our society, and so they've been trying to get out of the rooftop deal. They were trying to obviously use landmark tax credits to their benefit. I give them credit for that, for sure. No restrictions on night games, no restrictions on their private property, shut the streets down. And you know, my role as the elected official is to protect the residents first and foremost, but also how to make it more integrative into the community. We're not building Disneyland here. You know, this
but
is
they have sort of built a Disneyland,
but we've given them support. Look at all the support we've given them. The hotel, the first ever plaza license, from 18 games to 45 night events. Night events were supposed to make them more competitive and win more playoffs. They added much more concerts, you know, and people believe, yeah, I live near Wrigley Field, but not an open air concert venue that concerts go from, 11 is the curfew, which we had to put in a separate ordinance, but the Pearl Jam lasted till 1:30 in the morning, you know, and so we have protections, neighborhood protections, and there's reasons for them, because neighbors need to have their quality of life. They know they live near Wrigley. We think it's a dynamic neighborhood, and so do the Ricketts family, and yet I think the idea of them controlling the local aldermanic seat to do whatever they want, whether it's change the zoning, change all the rules and regs, and as he said, get government out of our way. I just will not stand for that as the elected representative.
If they have a controlled alderman, as you put it, a patsy alderman for them, as you put it, then what will happen? What do you
I did
fear?
Not say patsy alderman. Okay. As a gay alderman, I take offense with that.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean it that way, but a puppet alderman, or whatever you want to call it, a controlled alderman.
Yeah. So the question is, why would they want to do that?
No, I say, what do you fear they would get?
Oh my God!
If
well,
they
we've talked
did
about
that?
Closing the streets down. We might as well close from Belmont to Irving for them. Okay, these are arterial streets, important for people to get home, for theaters to operate, for other venues to happen. We do now close it 1 hour before and then 1 hour after the game. They want to change the zoning. They want to change the zoning in the rooftop district to close off Wayville and Sheffield and do Yaqui Way. You've heard them say that. Now that the rooftops are obsolete based on the sign package that we granted them, well, if we build higher and if we change it all from residential to commercial use, we'll just make it party time over there, you know, for them. But this is integrative. My job is to keep the other small businesses in business, to keep the residents basically wanting to stay in that neighborhood and not make it the theme park.
What else would it be if they had a controlled alderman?
Sky's the limit, Fran.
What? Give me some.
Well,
of the things
I gave you a couple.
Give me some more.
No restrictions on night activities whatsoever. We get to do whatever we want on our private property. So, beer garden 365 days a year, concerts every weekend. I mean, look at what we've done. There's a check and balance of the work that I've done over the last 7 or 8 years to make sure there were neighborhood protections in place. Remote parking. Forget the remote parking.
They'll get rid of that.
Get rid of that. Why? Well, it's an expense. It's an unneeded expense. You know, it's all about driving their bottom line. And my bottom line is keeping my neighbors and residents and other small businesses in business too.
But they say your bottom line is the rooftops and the bar owners that
Well,
you
wait,
protect.
there's no more rooftops. Rooftops are owned
Okay,
by
so
them
they're-
at their
okay,
price. Remember that.
There was
Yeah.
them.
But here, we granted the sign package, not only inside the ballpark, or remember, we extended the walls. We rebuilt the bleachers in 2006, 2007. They're brand new. We did not have to rebuild the bleachers. The rest of the stadium needed to be rebuilt. We rebuilt, and I supported expansion of the walls and the billboards that give them carte blanche, and effectively eliminated the viability of the rooftops. So now that remember.
But you gave them a fight.
Yeah, because here's why. I told you, I went back to this. Here's why. The Cubs and the Ricketts family bought the rooftop deal. That rooftop deal was 20 years. It was only year 10. I became alderman in 2002. First thing happened, E2 nightclub. Second thing happened, Lincoln Park porch collapse. I inherited this rooftop district. You know what the city and our office did? Completely rebuild these. Millions of dollars to get a license, or to keep your license. So now, remember that's 4, 5, 6. We expanded the bleachers. Everyone was happy. Rooftops were happy. The Cubs were happy. But they had spent millions to reinvest and to keep their business alive. And then we screwed the rooftops by the sign package. And my goal was, I'll give you the signs, but you have a private deal with these rooftop guys that lasts another 10 years. It's like a lease. Lease is up, what do you want me to do? But I felt we had put such a financial burden on the rooftop owners. They were very unhappy, as you know, that they had to rebuild these things and they had to keep the front, right? So even though they're not landmarked. So it's much more complicated than it sounds on the top line.
But they also say that these rooftops filled your campaign coffers.
I receive corporate interest, business interest. I'm a small business guy. So the idea of business people supporting Tom Tunney is totally consistent with one of the reasons why I ran. To have that voice on city council, because somebody needs to be the business leader, whether it's the small business, and trust me, I've been good to the Cubs too, as you know. So I'm for big business, I'm for hospitals getting redeveloped, I'm for redeveloping my neighborhood. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed by any of the campaign contributions I received, because I am the advocate for business on the council.
And if you look at what Laura Ricketts wrote in Cranes, and then what Tom Ricketts said on the score, they say you're the roadblock of the century, that everything that they want to do with their own property they should be allowed to do, and that you have been
I've answered some of that question.
resistant to them every step of the way. And Laura, who is a big Democratic fundraiser, is debunking your theory that this is a right-wing kind of conspiracy against you.
Look, I respect the Ricketts family, both the Democratic side and the Republican side. But you can quote me. Nobody is going to get in the way of their business model.
Nobody is going to get away with
their corporate
business.
profit. What they do with their money is their own business. But this business is about making money. My business is to balance the many intricate interests there, and to keep the residents first, and to make sure it's integrated into a vibrant community that they bought into. And I respect that investment.
Now, have they not been a good neighbor in some kind of way?
Well, they
have
do.
They not done
do
the development respectfully?
Well, here, when we changed, remember, if you remember correctly, under Tribune ownership, we approved a plan development over there. We gave them the opportunity to rebuild, okay? And then when Tom bought the team, the Ricketts family bought the team, and said, we don't like that plan development. We want to build, and so we went back to the community, a very thorough community process, and what we did was if you don't want to put parking there, right, because parking was supposed to be there, ground floor retail, parking, a deck that went into the ballpark. That was the original plan. Now, after a thorough community process, the community and I supported Gallagher, what's called Gallagher Way now, the plaza, and the remote parking is very robust, 1,000 cars at Rockwell and Irving with free shuttle. And they were also supposed to build another 150 parking spaces on the Brown lot, which was, that was all part of the deal. Remember, this was before the hotel site. So so like we do in our ward for everybody, there's a thorough process. We have a development and zoning council, which includes
So
the
have
Cubs.
they not been a good neighbor in any kind
I
of way?
keep the check and balance on it because, you know, it was some of my ideas to put those family-friendly events on the plaza before it was there, while it was a construction site. So the ice rink, the movies in the park, yoga, all good for the community. Everyone loves it. Nobody doesn't like a park. Okay, so, but this plaza ordinance, as you know, is a 3-year ordinance to figure out all the development that we approved for the Cubs. There must be 15 new liquor and restaurant establishments. Never mind what's happening on the other side of the street at Clark Addison, which was approved before Tom owned the team.
Okay, but you're still not telling me what you're not happy with.
I'm happy with what we're doing because we're
Okay.
balancing the needs, but there's a check and balance.
And if you're out of the way, then
there's no check and balance.
Katie, bar the door.
There's no check and balance.
They're hammering you, though, on the issues where you're vulnerable. Crime and property taxes. You voted for the largest property tax increase in Chicago history. That makes you vulnerable, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, of course. I'll accept responsibility. But you know the state of the financial crisis at the city and the pension obligations and just our bond rating. We had to make a decision to really keep the financial viability of our city moving forward. That being said, for that vote, I got 50 new officers in the 19th
But
district.
did you? Not
I
really.
did. No, I did, Fran. You can look at the numbers. You know,
Well, you complained a while back that you didn't get
no,
what you were
it was
promised.
getting there. We're supposed to get to 400. We're now at 382, but we're low at 333. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
So was
so
a
we got more
promise
police
made and a
officers.
promise maybe
Yeah,
broken a little
no,
bit?
No, it's working. It's working its way. We also got the new nerve center at the 19th district. We've got the new cars that can do the spotter technology for license plates, and the rapid response center at 19. So it's a combination of people and technology. And if you remember, they were going to close that district station many years ago, and I fought with the community to get the last new police station in our neighborhood.
Okay,
So
but
we're
you are
doing-
vulnerable on the issue of property taxes. People
Well,
are furious about their
Well,
assessments.
you know what? I think people well, assessments are different.
Well,
That's
I
one
know,
thing,
but
okay?
that
So-
fuels the whole
But I know, and I
double
know.
whammy.
And I'm on the street every day listening to our constituents and what are we going to do? So my remedy is, I'm for a progressive income tax down in Springfield, as long as there's property tax relief, because we're funding education too much on property tax, relying too much on property taxes. Illinois ranks 49th out of 50 in state funding for education. That will change under the
That's
Pritzker
going to
administration.
take several
But
years.
I mean, we got to change the art. What are we going to do? Not do anything?
No, but
Okay,
what is
and
your plan?
we didn't get here with pension obligations. It was 50 years in the making.
What is your plan, though, for dealing with the spike that's coming to the new mayor and the new city council immediately?
Well, I will not, and look, here's what we got to do. We've got to, as many of the aldermen says, we've got to wring out millions of dollars of the city budget. And I've asked Joe,
Where? Go ahead.
I've asked Joe Ferguson, our Inspector General, to do a forensic audit on the police and fire department, because there is, what, $2 billion in the combination of those departments? And no one's really, I believe there's been unchecked about how they spend the money, the overtime, you know, the lack of training, and where is all that money going?
The supplemental pay that we are
I'm just saying
obligated
is that's an Inspector General attribute. And if you can tell me that we can save $1 million on paving the streets a different way, you need to go after where the money is. And that money, 50-some% of our budget is public safety, and they go unchecked.
And they waste money?
I don't know that. But if you want to be an Inspector General, you need to go after that.
Okay, what
And-
else?
and
What
that's
other
one.
ideas
Well,
do you
we
have?
talked about the casino. We talked about cannabis. We've talked
Neither
about
of those are the answer to the immediate spike in pension payments. What is
Well,
your-
wait, we've gone, I will not vote for a property tax increase as I move forward in the next 4 years. I've taken a tough vote, and I'm going to.
And you're paying the price for it
well,
right now?
I'm defending myself because I believe we did the right thing for the city and for the pensions, and to really keep our city viable. So, I mean, you know me, I'm straightforward. What am I going to do? You know, what are you going to do? Just have the bond rating fall further to the worst in the country, threaten bankruptcy.
But that's why you guys had to walk the tax plank, and now all of you are vulnerable because of it.
But you know what? That's called leadership. We have to take tough votes. Moving forward, you asked me for alternatives. Okay, I've also,
Any others that you can come up with?
Well, I think that the whole tax system, I'm
talking about immediate sources of revenue or cost
here's
cutting.
what I'm saying. I think that we need to look at the whole sales tax system. We have the highest retail sales tax and no tax on services. President Cullerton has been talking about this for years. I look at the makeup of our streets, as vibrant as they are, they've changed from retail to service. And go right down the street, nobody's paying sales tax. Okay? So what we can do is do a limited service tax and start reducing to make sure that this county is in the highest taxed retail sales tax in the country. So that's another.
That's
okay?
another that also requires state approval, though.
I know. Everything at some
You
point.
think under Pritzker we could get approval for a so-called ROM tax, which is what Gary
I don't believe in a commuter tax. I don't believe in a financial tax. Gary
Chico raised the issue of service tax in 2011, or Rahm Emanuel did in 2011, and Gary Chico branded it the ROM
Gary
tax.
has his own platform. I'm telling you the
I understand,
reality.
But this is the ROM tax. This is the tax
I don't
on
call it
services.
ROM tax. No.
Okay.
Cullerton had it years before that.
Okay.
Okay.
But it hasn't happened yet, and you're saying that
But I think a lot is going to move because as much as the city has a problem, the state has the same kind of problems. We've got to find new revenue.
Yeah.
And I believe this progressive income tax is going to move. I also believe that the new assessor is going to have a whole different model of assessing properties, whether it's the trophy properties downtown or the what he says the unfairness of assessments on the south and west side relative to the north side. Now, my neighbors feel they pay their fair share. So we'll see what reforms are going to come out of there. I've already met with them. I passed a resolution at City Council about property tax reform, raising the threshold for senior household income, for long-term household income, and for small business, smaller stores at a different assessment level.
Now this council is going to look dramatically different.
Right.
Likely not to include Ed Burke, who is under federal charges at this point and probably getting hit with more. What do you make of the charges against Ed Burke? You know him a long time.
Well, let me just talk about the council for a second. I'm going to answer the first part of the question. Okay. One of the reasons I'm continuing to run because that voice, that fiscally conservative, taking tough votes, socially moderate voice,
small business
owner. That voice needs to be on that council.
And this is the only one, really, at this point?
Well, you can answer that question. I've been a leader on small business reform, whether it's licensing, 2-year licensing, getting rid of the head tax. Hello? Mayor, that was one of my initiatives and forced Daley to keep moving it down and for Rahm to eliminate it.
Daley didn't do so well on that front. He only took $1 off. Daley took $1 off and stopped there.
It's done.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I feel very proud of that voice on the council, and I think that voice is going to be.
Well, let's talk about Ed Burke. You know him. Is this?
But it's one of the reasons why I'm running it.
The alleged extortion scheme that we saw with the Burger King franchise owner. Is that the Ed Burke you know?
No, it's not the Ed Burke I know.
What is the Ed Burke you know?
The real question is Ed's recusals of whatever, there are 431 recusals because he has an interest on both sides of the aisle. And what Ed should have done is got off the chair and not even discussed something and then recuse himself. This is what I do. When I'm the second largest recusals. I have, 28. 27 of them are ANSADA related. Okay? So I don't sit on the transportation committee. There's signs, there's sidewalk cafes,
You're not in the room when they talk about it?
I'm not in the room. I recuse myself. I
report
it to ethics.
You don't talk about it behind the scenes?
I go to clerk. No.
The Burke thing, the recusals.
But that's not the Ed Burke. And the thing about Ed, the abuse of power is what this is about. It's not his, at this point, it's not his role as finance chair. It's any alderman could get caught trying to shake down people. And if it's correct, it's not the Ed Burke I know, and there's no reason.
What is the Ed Burke you know?
Well, Ed's been an established politician. He's been through 50 years of governance. I think his